How's it going, YouTube? Video number 3. Well, it's been another sort of kind of slow day in the news today, so we're going to talk about something else that's probably bigger news-ish than really anything at this very current moment, and that is Windows 10 going end of life. So, a little bit of backstory about me. I'm a sysadmin. I won't explain what I do for a living besides that, but that's my career anyway, my career path. So I feel like in some ways I might be qualified to talk about this, maybe a little more than other things I talk about, but we'll see. So, Windows 10 going end of life. It's stirring some stuff online, as I can see. I mean, if you're involved into this at all as well, you'll know that Windows. There's all these videos about Windows 10's end of life now. Kind of happens all the time with every Windows version that's gone end of life. And I just kind of wanted to talk about that and share my 2 cents on something specific to Windows 10. I don't really have much to talk about Windows 10 in general. There's plenty of other better videos to do that if you want to watch those. I'm really wanting to address another one of my perhaps unpopular opinions. So, I really don't care about Windows 10. And what I'm getting at is, when it first came out, it was a breath of fresh air because Windows 8 was a complete clusterfuck in my mind. Windows 8.1 was just basically the, oh shit, we're fixing all the bugs with Windows 8 basically. And I used 8.1 for a little while. Just with a basically classic shell installed on it to give myself that Windows 7 start menu back again, which actually worked relatively decently. It was a really stable system. 8.1 wasn't bad after you'd modify the UI. And so when Windows 10 came out, it was a breath of fresh air. And for me, I was at first good with Windows 10. I liked it. I was like, oh yeah, this is not the greatest thing Microsoft could have done, but hey, at least it's a step in the right direction. We've got the start menu back. We've got rid of this. Well, you could have used. There was still at that point in time an option where you could toggle the start screen back on if you really wanted to use that, but I imagine almost no one did because it wasn't too long after that. Maybe a few versions later, where I'm pretty sure Microsoft completely removed that feature. I think starting with like 1804 or something. I don't remember exactly, but. I could be wrong about that, but I stopped seeing the option. Maybe I wasn't looking for it, but at least I remember stopped seeing the option to actually turn the start screen back on around like build 1804 or something. That was also kind of when Windows 10 kind of got to being more of a stable version again. See, in my mind, when Windows 10 first came out, it started out good, good OS in the right direction, and then actually it started tanking. Windows 10.2, I think it was, which is like build 16 or something, 1607 possibly, was the beginning of a bad spot in time for Windows 10. Honestly, build 16 through 17 really just sucked. I don't know. I had a lot of stability issues. I had a lot of problems with Windows 10 at that time. And it was just kind of getting bloaty again. I still had a lot of PCs that still had hard disks at that time. And Windows 10 was just virtually impossible to run on a hard disk. If you were running it if you're Drive C, you're running it from the hard disk instead of an SSD. And so I just wasn't a fan of 10.2 or Windows build 16 through 17. Really, those builds, and even if you did have an SSD, it was buggy. They had issues. They were trying to get rid of like Win32 features at that time. They were really trying to go back to pushing people towards their Metro UI garbage, with the Windows App Store, things like that, which nobody fucking asked for. Thanks again, Microsoft, for that. They're still trying to do that now, but it's kind of like they're doing a little more smoothly with that than it used to be anyway. And then around builds 1804, they kind of started shifting back to, okay, we're not gonna, get rid of the Win32 stuff anymore. We're gonna keep that crap in. We're gonna keep, we're just gonna, here's a stable operating system. You're welcome. Microsoft admits defeat once again. And we have basically their builds 18, 19, 22, like 21, 22, H2, all that stuff. Those later builds pretty much kept seeing Windows 10 with, essentially with, those were there from that time. It was pretty much a stable operating system, usable, no big deal. I really didn't have any complaints with it at that point. There were a few things though that, see, to me, Windows 10, no matter what, from the very beginning up until the very end, it always felt incomplete to me. Again, I had grown up around Windows XP, Windows Vista even, which I didn't realize Windows Vista was kind of a clusterfuck in itself, but actually I would argue Vista was not nearly as bad as 8. And I used Vista as my primary OS for years, and I actually, once again, yes, the very beginnings of Vista, the beta versions and the very first releases, but once you had Service Pack 1 installed, Vista was just fine. It worked fine. Unfortunately, Windows Vista actually was I'm going off topic for a second here, but everyone gives shit to Vista. That'll be a separate video, I guess. But Vista was actually okay. Another unpopular opinion of mine, I think people, they're too trendy. People think, oh, it's just horrible because it started out bad. Well, but once Microsoft fixed it, it was actually okay. It was usable. But my point is that Windows XP was pretty finalized. Microsoft did a really good job with the UI. Then the whole point of XP was to introduce this new UI theme. Get away from the decade plus of Windows Classic, right? Perhaps. We call it Windows Classic, I guess, now, but whatever. The Windows 9X era, all that stuff. But, and then, Windows 7. I mean, everybody loved Windows 7. Windows 7 was a major hit. I was sad when that one went end of life. I remember I remember my dad first bringing home, because he was like on the insiders list back then, and he brought home a disc with Windows 7 beta on it, and I instantly fell in love. It was like one of the very first not very first things, but it was one of the, I used to be excited for new Microsoft stuff at one point in time, because of Vista, because of 7. I just thought that Microsoft was just this, they could not do wrong. I mean, I realized Vista was a cluster in many ways, but it was just cool, especially when you were a kid. It was like, wow, it looked amazing. That glass theme, that Aurora stuff. It was awesome. And 7 was just a better version of Vista in my mind, and it was great. Anyways, so aesthetically, Windows 7 and Windows Vista and XP were great operating systems. Regardless of what we could say. And XP and 7 obviously were rock solid in many other ways, just for being what they were. Anyways, so fast forward to Windows 8. Windows 8 to me was an actual failure in every fucking way. And stability and UI, there was nothing good about Windows 8. And 8.1 was just the oops, we fucked up fix. And that was just to limp them along until they got something else, which was 10. To me, 10 was just another oops, we fucked up fix. And they never even really improved. I literally thought when I first laid eyes on Windows 10, I was like, is this the beta version? No, this is the final release. But the UI looks like trash. It's like, it's blocky, and the start button looked like it was like an unfinished beta build thing. And then you have this like taskbar. It just looked like shit compared to like the previous version. Even some parts of Windows 8 looked better than Windows 10 in my mind. And I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that thinks that way, but Windows 10 always looked unfinished to me, the UI. And Microsoft never went back and fixed that. They were like, nah, that's what it's going to look like for fucking the next decade, I guess. And so be okay with this. I mean, I've never appreciated 10, besides that it was a decent operating system. But see, to me, Windows 10, people have like short-term memory loss and shit, because Windows 10 was just as bad as Windows 8 and Windows 11 about trying to push your ass to the fucking cloud. I remember when Windows 10 was the latest and greatest, you still had to find workarounds to create local accounts in 10. Everyone blames Windows 11 for that now, but Windows 10, in my mind, it did all the same shit. The only thing that Windows 10 didn't do that Windows 11 does that's bad is require TPM. Windows 10 doesn't require that's like the only big one I can think of that Windows 10 truly doesn't do. That is like, oh, fucking problem, right? But honestly, in this day and age, if your PC doesn't have an SSD and sure it doesn't support UEFI and doesn't have a TPM, honestly, it is garbage. I mean, and I'm not saying like your home PC. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about enterprise environments. Enterprise environments need to have encryption on every single workstation, on every single laptop, on basically every server at this point. Encryption is paramount everywhere. And so it's not really like Microsoft is pushing this unholy thing with Windows 11 when they're like, hey, we kind of require you to encrypt your stuff right now, you know. Now, I will be honest, I'm not sure that Microsoft needs to be the ones pushing that, because really that's just not their fucking problem. It needs to be organizations making the decision, and really cybersecurity insurance going to organizations and saying, you need to actually be encrypting your drives everywhere, or else we're not going to insure you whenever, someone steals Becky's laptop and they pull all the data off of it. I mean... So, in cybersecurity insurance, in every way right now, if you're not encrypting your stuff, they really won't help you. And at that, they won't help you whenever you do have a breach. And on top of that, they're going to just charge you more anyway when they actively know you're not encrypting your stuff. So, Microsoft is kind of being stupid by requiring that. It's really not up to them to do that. I agree. But at the same time, it's not the end of the world to ask for TPM. You need to look at you need to look at this from Microsoft's standpoint. With Windows 11, Microsoft doesn't make any money off home users. They don't make any money off people that go to buy a laptop from fucking Walmart. They don't even make any money off gamers. That's not where Microsoft's money is at. Their money is in enterprise. And we have all these campus area networks that they have 500 plus workstations, or whatever, laptops, you name it. They all run Windows. And then we have a cluster of Windows servers or VMs or whatever in the data center, and those all run Windows Server, which, by the way, is extremely expensive. If you think that Windows is expensive, Windows servers, and if you work in IT, you probably know how expensive Windows Server is. But for those of us that don't, they charge you per fucking core now. It's ridiculous what Microsoft is charging for this shit. But, and honestly, for that reason, I don't fucking like Windows anymore at all, and I refuse to use it at home. Because, it's just dumb in my mind. So my point is that I don't understand all this hype with Windows 10. Everyone's just up in arms like, I cannot believe. Microsoft has been warning us for over a year now that they're pulling the plug on this. That, in fact, they apparently knew how badly people just didn't want to get rid of 10, because, of course, they've actually seen this before with Windows 7 and XP when people just refuse to give up those operating systems, and some of them still are still refusing to give up 7 and XP, even in XP. You heard me right. There is still a percentage of people out there that have XP machines, and they're on the internet. And I have seen them personally, some of them. Okay? So believe me, now not where I work, thank God. Well, I'm not going to say anything more about that. We have one. Don't even get me started on that. Anyways, so there's a specific reason we have to have that. I don't get me started. But my point is that 10 is not this special, amazing operating system. Again, 7, that was an actual tragedy. 7 was an actually great operating system. I loved Windows 7. It was amazing. I was sad to see it go. It was destined to go. 7, when it did finally go end of life, I was sad, but I also understood it. That thing had been out for a long time. It really didn't support the latest, greatest hardware anymore. Microsoft really did keep that one going as long as they possibly could before they said, really, this is just not worth supporting anymore. You have to understand that it costs money. It's not like Microsoft can just freely support this stuff. They have to have staff that's knowledgeable about the operating systems and everything about it, and these people are paid endearingly well. At least I think they are. If you're a Microsoft developer, please enlighten us if this is not true. But from what I understand is that you have teams there that are paid very well because they know the source code. They're like, basically it's like hush hush money, like don't spread it around, whatever, blah blah blah, and but these people also have to maintain this aging operating system, right? They have to patch it so that it's secure with the modern internet, something that it was not originally designed for. So, it becomes a big thing, and so really the only way you're ever going to get anything decently secure is there's like these third-party patches and things like that you can install from people that write patches after the fact, but honestly they don't know the operating system like Microsoft does, I would argue, and so they're not going to have the ability to patch your Windows builds very good after the fact. Just my 2 cents. But anyways, I just don't understand the hype behind Windows 10. I don't get it. I really, again, I realize that, I guess my channel is just nothing but complaining at this point, but it is, because I don't understand the hype. It's, to me, again, Windows 10 was just a build or a version of Windows that, honestly, was kind of a Microsoft defeat version. Windows 10 was never supposed to exist the way it did, but originally with how Microsoft was planning, and when Windows 8 flopped like the fuck it did, Microsoft was backed into a corner to make 10 the way it was, and therefore it came with a shitty UI. It really just did. The UI is dog shit with 10. It really always was to me. It's always felt incomplete. And I mean, for the longest time, the Windows settings, like, one of the big things that's always driven me crazy, why even have a settings app whenever half the fucking functionality, you want to open advanced features, whatever, it just pops open a control panel dialog box, or sometimes takes you directly to control panel itself. Advanced system settings, here's the Windows properties, like it's always been the last, decade plus now with Windows 7 and Vista. Even XP in some ways. And it's like, Microsoft, why even write the app? Why even ship the settings app whenever it needs the old UI just to fucking do its job? Why am I even bugging with this fucking thing? It made no sense to me. It was just, Windows 11 is better in that way. Now, I don't really give a shit for the settings app. It's okay. I still like using control panel when I use Windows because I'm just an old fucking dog, and I do use the settings app too because, it's just the one that works. It works fine, whatever. But now it's a lot more functional as a UI than, it kind of feels like it's got a lot more options and actually is meant to do something and be a decent option versus Windows 10's settings app. It just, and yes, and I understand that in time they made minor improvements to the settings app in Windows 10. I get that, but it never quite made it there where it was, honestly. Again, my unpopular opinion is this. Windows 11 is good. It's fine. And when I say good, I mean for a Microsoft operating system at this point, because let's be honest, since Windows 7 was the last actually good, actually great, something I would actually recommend beyond, other than Linux or a fucking Mac, that I could actually argue was a great operating system and a great option, and I would be able to sell it, right? Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11, they're okay. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Windows 8's just fucking bad. I don't care Windows 8 just sucked. There are those really oddball people that actually appreciated the Windows 8 start screen, and all power to them. If they like that, okay, cool, whatever. But that's a huge minority of people. More of a minority of people probably think the way that I do. So I don't know. But Windows 11 is a more complete UI. I realize that, they took away the some of the options. They updated, the right-click context menus that, have the icons now for copy-paste, whatever, and I can live without that, sure. But if you actually look at the old context menu, it does look pretty fucking aged. I'm not going to lie. It probably does need a refresher. Do I agree that that's what Microsoft should have done to improve the context menus? No, they fucked that up. But the old context menus, like when you say, show more options, and it brings up the old context menu, it looks like shit. It looks like Windows 98, man. It's like if you it's that old UI thing. It's like You know, I don't mean directly looks at Windows 9. I'm just making a joke. It's like, it looks like it's out of place, the old context menus, right? When you right click and say show more options, brings the old context menu. So, and then yes, okay, you can't, you know, you can you can uncenter the start taskbar. You can put it back on the left if you really want to, but you can't like Twinkie your taskbar, and you can't like modify it. Honestly, guys, now again, this is my opinion, and I realize that this is only me, and this is really only me. I mean that. But I don't care that you can't fucking expand the taskbar, or you can't, like, you know, I've never wanted to do that anyway. The taskbar in Windows 11 is more than functional enough. Actually, I like it centered. I think it looks good like that. The only thing that I don't like about Windows 11, but again, 10 did this very same fucking thing. They introduced that in the corner, is that news and interest bullshit. That's just garbage. Get that? That's bloatware. That's the first thing I turn off on the taskbar whenever I set up a new 11 machine. It's garbage, right? I don't want to fuck with that. But otherwise, the system tray's been refined. It looks much better than it did in 10. The taskbar, the windows now have, you know, they don't just have these. It's not like a cutout piece of paper. It's now like, oh, it looks like 7. The windows look complete. Like the UI looks like it's been completed. You know, you have these beveled edges now and all this stuff. I mean, it just looks better than it did in 10. You know, 10 was just a slapped together piece of shit. And I realize that people actually probably like that. They like, oh, well, it didn't update Notepad. It didn't update all these things. So, you know, whatever. I mean, did I really want a Notepad update? I could have lived without it, to be honest, sure. But, I mean, other than the few little tiny bloatware things like the fucking, like, Microsoft, honestly, this goes for any computer company right now. The majority of us do not fucking care about AI. I mean, if you're going to give me a virtual assistant in the operating system, leave it on the taskbar, fine. And okay, I can turn it off if I want to. Good. Okay, I can live with that. You know, honestly, Microsoft been doing that for a lot longer than 10 or 11. I mean, you had the little Clippy is a virtual assistant. That's been there for fucking ever, right? You can turn it off, though, if you don't want to see it. You know, so, but my complaint with Windows 11 is, yes, okay, like in the Notepad, what is that? Frickin' I forget the assistant's name. It's not Cortana anymore. It's the new one. Oh, fuck, I forget. But it's in the corner of Notepad. Like, every little thing you do, there's the virtual assistants are everywhere. It's like, dude, it's almost more annoying than Clippy, because at least Clippy was in one fucking place. You can close his ass out if you didn't want to see him. That's good with me. But whenever when these things are in my face and I can't get rid of the fucking icons, I can't just unpin them, that is annoying. Alright? That is purely fucking annoying, and that is the biggest complaint I have with Windows 11 right there, is the fact that they're trying to push this AI shit on you, you know, like this virtual assistant shit on you like you wanted it. We don't. We don't want it. Who the fuck is using... I mean, okay, the one AI that everybody uses, other than like Google AI at this point, I guess, you know, maybe I actually kind of like Google AI, not gonna lie. At first it was dumb as fuck. Now it's actually a lot better, so I do like it now and use it, and I wouldn't say rely on it, but I do use it. But ChatGPT is like the one that everybody actually uses. But if it's not ChatGPT, I don't think anyone else... What other AI are people using that's like, you know, like a virtual assistant kind of thing, right? Where you ask it questions or nothing else, you know? And all these... It's like this AI shit, man. You know, I realize I'm kind of rambling right now. But I mean, it's like, that's the one thing about Windows 11 that I can't stand. Otherwise, 11 stacked up to 10 in almost every other way. The UI, there was never any compatibility issues. The only real compatibility issue we saw with Windows 11 was they dropped support for 32-bit. Not just installing it on a 32-bit machine, but also running 32-bit code on there. Well, honestly, Microsoft's late to the game on that one. They really are. I mean, Mac did it years before Windows ever did. So Windows really just following in Apple's footsteps there. And, I mean, guys, if your code is still like 32-bit, it needs to be updated at this point. That's bullshit. I don't really want to be running 32-bit code on my system anymore. I just don't. It needs to be updated. You know, if you're like, oh, I love this 32-bit code, I absolutely have to keep it because I just am a dog ass and do not want to fucking upgrade my software for whatever fucking reason. You know, oh, it just works. Don't fix it. Well, does it though? You know, does it with the mod? Again, you know, computers aren't. It's not. It's you know, it's broke or it's not broke. Don't fix it. If that thing's connected on the internet, if it's not broke, someone will break it if it's not fucking patched. Okay, so. If you're running modern, if you're trying to run your old ass dog shit programs on modern computers, dude, like, build yourself an old piece of shit PC or containerize the damn thing. Like, open a Windows XP VM, install VirtualBox, install XP or 7, whatever, in a virtual machine, 32-bit, that's supposed to 32-bit. Take it, don't connect it to the network, just run that software in there. Or if you absolutely have to have a network, fine, just put firewall rules and shit in place for it. You can kind of sort of secure a VM better than if it were your main operating system, right? My point is that that's like, there's not really anything functional that 11 has truly done that has been bad. It's just, I don't know. Oh, I don't like the fact they're pushing the Microsoft Cloud. Again, 10 did that. Well, yeah, but they're starting to try to get rid of all the workarounds in the setup. 10 did that. They just stopped doing it only because they now have Windows 11 and they were pushing people to use Windows 11. And so, you know, now they're like, well, we're not going to focus too much on 10 anymore because it's not worth it, right? The only people that really actually are fucking pissed and want to see Windows 10 stick around and want to keep using it are people that are into computers. Okay? And guys, I'm going to say something that everybody's already heard a billion fucking times, probably more than that. Switch to fucking Linux. Yeah, there we go. I said it. I said the goddamn buzzword, Linux. Do it. If you're so stuck up your ass about using Windows 10, hey, you don't want to use Windows 11. I don't know why. Oh, well, I don't want to. It's not supported on my computer. Then run Rufus and then get a fucking, you know, patch it so where it doesn't require the TPM anymore. That's literally a checkbox in Rufus nowadays. And, oh, well, it won't upgrade itself then. But I didn't think you wanted that, though. So you're sticking with Windows 10, so why are you worried about not getting the latest, greatest upgrades every time they come out, or the latest builds or whatever? You're still going to get normal Windows updates. You just won't automatically get the new builds. But apparently, you only want to get Windows 11, so why the fuck are you worried about that? You know? I mean, I was doing that for a while. I didn't have TPM set up on my computer, so I just blotched 11 on there, and that was fine. And I didn't care. You know, and eventually it went end of life, so I tried to upgrade it. The upgrade tool failed to run, even though at that point I actually did have a supported TPM installed. And it was like, okay, so it borked my Windows installation. I actually booted to Linux Mint, like just a live disk, just to like copy my files just so I can reinstall fucking Windows. But then I ended up fucking blowing my Windows installation away and just installing Mint. And honestly, I've been happy ever the fuck since. And I honestly have been kind of like, I don't play a lot of video games. And so one thing I knew that like Steam had like, you know, Steam Deck stuff and they were really working on like getting Proton, and Proton was really good. I didn't know how good though. Guys, I can run Microsoft Flight Simulator on Linux Mint. Every game I've tried so far, now again, I'm not a huge gamer, so there's probably plenty of games that might not work on it, but still, most games that I have tried so far, actually no, all games I've personally tried so far, work just fine in Mint. Again, I have this very specific Windows application. Is it like resource? Like, is it graphics intensive heavy? If the answer is no, fire up VirtualBox, put a fucking Windows VM in place, containerize that shit. You don't have to, you know, and then it's actually better if you do it that way because, oh, what if your upgrade fails? Well, you've taken a snapshot of the VM first. You can roll it back like nothing happened. If Windows is installed on your bare metal, then you we do this all the time. When we upgrade servers at work or make major changes, we take snapshots. That way, oh, fuck, it fucked up. Oh, with one click of a button, boom, we're right back to where we started. No worries. Let's go back to drawing board, see why, and we don't have to worry about shit like that. That's the beauty of containerizing, right? Snapshots and things like that. And that's what I do. I have Windows VM I have to for work on my home computer, and that thing, I have to upgrade or something. I just snapshot it, and then, oh, okay, it broke, just fucking restore, and we can figure out what happened versus having to reinstall the OS all over again. So it's like, and again, Linux Mint, I've been using it for months now personally. Now again, I've used Linux all over the place. I have every single machine that I had was Linux except my main computer because I was still kind of holding out. Like, I was afraid to make the full switch, whatever. And I've officially done so though, and I'll tell you, I've never been happier. I truly. I'm my PC. I have like the default AMD Ryzen fan that the one that lights up LED. That thing was noisy as absolute hell. I mean, yeah, it's a noisy ass fan. Don't get me wrong, it's a fan's fault, but it would always be ramping up. When my computer was sitting there running idle, that thing would ramp. And yeah, I had security software. I know how to manage my system. Again, I do this for a living. So no, there wasn't anything nefarious running on it. It was just Windows being fucking Windows. It uses shitloads of resources for I don't fucking know what reason. It's just doing its thing. But Linux Mint, dude, you could have like 500 tabs open in Firefox. You could have a game open. You could have all this shit going, and that fan is quiet as hell. I actually think it's harmful in some ways to run Windows on your machine right now. And sure enough, when I boot up that Windows 11 VM, oh hell, does them noises come back from my box? It's like Windows is just it's been horrible for years from Windows 8 to again I was having these issues with Windows 10 as well. Windows 10 was just as bad on my hardware as Windows 11 was. Again, it was like 1605 or whatever whenever I started really seeing problems with hardware usage, and I was like, holy hell, it's horrible. And Microsoft never fixed that. It carried over to 11. So I'm like, guys, I don't get it. I don't get all this hype with Windows 10 being end of life that everyone's it just hates it so much. I truly think that. I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a lot of situations out there that I'm sure I'm not, talking about, or we can't get rid of 10 because it's the last Windows build that supported our dog shit old software or whatever. But you know what? I work in an environment right now that still has all that dog. We have software that goes back to the fucking 80s, my friend. All right. And I absolutely hate supporting it. Okay. And I do what I can do to support it, to bring it up into the modern world, whatever. But I am on all my colleagues know how much I hate it. They hate it too. And the only reason why we have to deal with it is because, well, it's not our choice, but we have to keep supporting it for the clientele, whatever, right? But I mean, we are off, they're not the ones making that choice. We are finding solutions all the time and presenting like, hey, can we move to this instead? It's a better option for this, right? The world does not stay still. The world is constantly changing, guys. All right, and learn. And I will do a video on that at some point as well. How to deal with change, because I seriously think people struggle with this. I'm not trying to be like an ass about it. Change does suck sometimes, right? It really does. A lot of time it sucks, but this is the way the world works. And again, Windows 11, guys, it's not that bad. I get it, maybe I'm not saying Microsoft, this was a great operating system. I don't use 11 for a lot of reasons, right? I don't use 11 if 10 was still the latest operating system and I tried Linux Mint, I loved it, I would not have reinstalled 10 either, right? It's not that it's nothing against 11 specifically, it's just that Windows in general has sucked for so long now. If anything, 11 is only a little bit better than 10 in my mind, because it's a more finalized version of Windows. Now, yes, Microsoft is trying hard to get you to push to Microsoft Cloud and all this stuff. Guys, they're not the only ones doing that. Your phone essentially requires you to sign into a cloud service of some kind. That's been like that for, years now. So you're already doing it there. It's like, and I'm not saying I support this and whatever. I'm just saying, the things that Microsoft are doing with 11 are not really, they're to be expected. Do I like them? No, I don't. But they're to be expected. And if you really don't like them, then don't fucking use Windows. It's that simple. It's like we have it in our heads that we absolutely have to use Windows. Well, we can't switch to Linux because it doesn't do X, Y, and Z. Guys, if just 40%, by the way, Linux Mint right now is phenomenal. If you really just don't, even if you just don't care about Linux, you can use Linux Mint like I wouldn't say like it's Windows, but you can use it like you don't even have to know it's Linux. It's just an operating system. It's just an alternative, really, at this point, and actually a user-friendly one at that. So my point is that's why I use it. I don't use, like, if the Linux guys are like, well, why aren't you using Arch Linux? Oh, for fuck's sake, don't go that far off the deep end. Yes, Arch is good. Yes, Arch is fine. I don't want to use Arch. I actually have problems with Arch, and I don't really care. I just want a working system. I mean, that's why I used Windows all this time. That's why a lot of people, I have better things to do with my life than rewrite my fucking computer's operating system. All right? I don't want to be doing that. I have a girlfriend, guys. I have a life. Believe it or not, this ugly fat ass is dating somebody. And I'll tell you something, because of that shit right there, I got a fucking life, okay? I can't be sitting here writing Arch Linux and shit all day. I don't have time for that. And so I need a working system. And so therefore Linux Mint works for me. So I understand that. My point is that other people can be moving this. And if 45% of the people who are currently using Windows, no matter what version you're using, whatever, would, even just 40% would move to Linux, that would be enough of a chunk that anything that would have to be fixed would, and it's pretty much, the things that make Linux, the argument that, oh, well, we're not sure, honestly, it's like maybe 5% at this point. It's so low. It's negligible now, the things that you cannot do in Linux. In many ways, it's done better in Linux now. When people think of using Linux, they're like, oh, well, that's that shit from like when I tried Ubuntu back in like 2013. No, that is not the experience you're going to get now. Not even close. I mean, I would argue it's actually in some ways more compatible, actually a lot of ways more compatible than a fucking Mac. If you use a Mac, Mac's supposed to be compatible a lot with almost everything. They're about as, they're supposed to be about as good as Windows is. Well, I would argue Linux Mint is better than, and again, I have plenty of OS 10 or 12 experience or whatever. I'm telling you that I think that it's better than a Mac even at this point. So my point is that, if you really just don't like Windows that much, you don't have to use it. There actually are alternatives, and you don't have to fucking use Windows. But for some goddamn reason, you sit there and complain about, oh, I can't just not. You act like this is so perfect, yet you have all these problems with it. And I'm telling you right now, these people, just like with Windows 7, just like with XP, they're going to be forced eventually. They're going to put themselves through unholy amounts of pain for no fucking reason. They'll finally move to Windows 11. And guess what? Windows fucking 13 is going to be out. They'll skip like 2 versions or something. And then it'll be like, by the time they move to Windows 11, it'll be fucking a year from being end of life. And they're going to be right back to the same fucking bullshit they were in. It doesn't make any sense. Why do you kill yourself like this? Now if you genuinely just enjoy digging with Windows, I mean, I was there when I was a kid growing up. I genuinely enjoyed messing with my computer and effing with it, right? I had time back then to do these things and to really mess with my system and modify it and do all this shit. And I didn't care if I was running end-of-life software or whatever. I just liked doing that shit, right? It wasn't as much of a problem. Well, now things are different. I need something that just works, right? But if you're one of those people, then what the fuck are you even playing on? Run Windows 98 at this point. Windows 98 is, whatever the fuck you want to do, right? But my point is, it's like, I don't get it. I don't get all the hype about Windows. Oh, Windows, other than it's end of life. Okay, yeah, it's just another version of Windows that went end of life. Sure, that's, just look back on it, see what it was. Okay, it had its time, whatever. Other than that, people are so actually pissed about this. And what they're saying is, and well, from what I've heard anyway, is apparently when Windows 10 went end of life just a couple days ago, it had still had the highest market share at that time, higher than what Windows 7 had when it went end of life, and even higher than what XP had when it went end of life. Now, partially what I would argue is, well, XP was like Remember, XP came out in 2001 and it went end of life in 2014. Microsoft tried multiple times to kill XP and they failed. They finally just said, we don't even care. We're pulling the plug at this point. I don't care how much shit we break. We're no longer supporting XP. It's 2014. Move on. You know, same with Windows 10, or sorry, with Windows 7. They're like, it's just really long in the tooth now. It's really getting hard to fucking work on. It's no longer worth the money anymore, especially when, like, sure enough, they pull the plug. Windows 10 actually, from what I've heard, it has the highest percent. There's still there's a higher percentage of computers, running Windows 10 at this point in time than there ever were with Windows 7 and XP when they went end of life. That's what I'm trying to get at right now. Why? What is so fucking good about 10? That is like, you guys, for the longest time, it was just literally, well, okay, okay, let me take that back. I get part of it is probably because the TPM requirement. There's a lot of computers out there that don't meet the TPM requirements. But again, if your organization is running on a shoestring, and yes, I live in bumfuck middle of goddamn Midwest nowhere. All right, I have supported environments where they were running Windows 10 on Athlon 2s. Yes, I have done that. I don't want to talk about that anymore. My point is I know I've worked in areas where it's a shoestring IT department, okay? So yes, I understand you can't afford to buy all these new machines. Okay, once again, Windows 11 you'll still get patches with it if you decide to, again, get around the TPM requirement. You just won't get the automatic version upgrades. So yeah, maybe you'll have to go from computer to computer at some point and upgrade. But you know what? That's the fucking reality when your organization is running a decade plus old hardware at this point. Because that's what it has to be to not have TPM 2.0. So I'm sorry. I just, you know, and I get that some people are like, well, I'm fine running a decade plus old hardware. Okay. Well, then you're good then with disabling to the TPM requirement and managing your system, because it's like driving an old car. I'm sitting in a 2005 Pontiac Vibe right now. And this car is a great little car. It's built on a Toyota Matrix mod design. But it takes me and all of me to get this thing, which has how much? We have 290,167 miles on this thing. It's almost 300,000 miles. And by the way, it's sitting in this garage because she needs some love and some work right now before I can get the plates renewed. But my point is that I love this car, and so I understand why you love your old computer, but you have to do it's at a certain point now where it's not going to just be another car on the road. It requires some special love and care. So is your old computer. So if you want to run Windows 11, if I want this thing to drive on the road in 2025, I'm going to have to get around that TPM thing and manage that all shit, you know, and create the local account using backdoor methods or whatever the fuck. I don't know, right? That's the reality. It's not that bad. People act like it's the death, you know. And again, they're like, well, I don't want to support Microsoft in Windows 11 then. Again, they're doing it with 10, so you're not supporting Microsoft, especially if you pay them for the LTS versions of 10 where they keep getting updates for the next 3 years or whatever that whole shit is right now. I mean, you're giving Microsoft more money for what? If you really want to hurt Microsoft, get off of Windows completely. They're going to make money off of you if you're still using Windows. They're just going to. Because at some point, you're going to have to migrate to 11 because all your applications will fucking stop working on 10 because they'll stop supporting 10. Or they're going to keep being supported on this LTS version of 10 that you have to move to and pay a monthly subscription now for. You're actually, I don't want my data going to the cloud. You're going to have to get a cloud account or whatever just to get this fucking thing updates again. Or you just do nothing and have an unpatched system. And again, guys, this is not 2012. This is not even 2018. The modern internet is fucked. You cannot run unpatched systems. You leave XP with its firewalls turned on right now on the modern internet, And that shit will get hacked. It doesn't matter. Within minutes, there's bots looking all over the place for this shit. Anyone that works in the computer industry knows this. My point is that stop fucking complaining about Windows 10 being end of life. It is what it is. It was never a good operating system to begin with. It was okay. 11 is just another okay operating. People are so. The world has gotten so fucked. It's like, wow. It's like any little thing that is new or whatever. And I get it. It's not great like it used to be when, you know, but any little thing that happens now, it's just everything has to be fucking bad. So, and that's kind of why I'm starting this YouTube series, because there's like, guys, the reason you want to hear something, I'll leave off. I'm going to stop this video because we're 45 minutes into it. But here's the here's the thing. Do you want to know why the world sucks right now? Why Donald Trump got elected? Why all this shit's going down right now? Why the Ukraine, all this shit? Why the fucking world sucks right now? Because the masses think the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Right? The masses think that the world is fucking ending. All right, I think more so than they ever have. I think it's worse than fucking Cold War was. I was not around back then, so I can't say for sure. But I will tell you, from what I understand about that time period and comparing it to now, I think it's actually, people are actually more like the world's going to fucking end now. Now, they got some legit reasons to think that. But let me tell you something. If we all keep buying into that, if you all like everything that the corporations do is bad, now don't get me wrong, they're doing a lot of bad shit right now. I'm not dismissing that. I'm just saying, if we continue to like just believe, you have to understand the corporations have bought into this. The oligarchs have bought into this. All the wealthy people in this world, they know that everybody thinks that's the new theme now. The world's going, they're selling you fear. They're selling you shit now. And they're doing this on purpose. If you want to put a stop, if you want the world to change for the better, then start acting like it. Start switching to Linux. Seriously, start supporting open source stuff. Start supporting open conversations. Like I'm doing right now. And get your opinions out there and start like going against the norm, dude. I'm going to keep making, my last night's video was about, if you didn't see that, it was about Tron Ares. You know why? It was actually a good movie. But there's so many people out there that think that Jared Leto just sucks, so it had to be a bad movie. And I literally think most of those people didn't even see the movie. They just automatically don't like it because Jared Leto. You didn't even give it a chance. You just hate it for, it's like, when your mom used to tell you, you haven't tried this food, so how do you know you don't like it? That's like people have never, it's like they forgot that lesson. It's like, people just think the world's going to such a hell in a handbasket now that they're unwilling to I think that too. I'm scared shitless right now for our world. And that's why I've started making these videos. And I'm telling you, I don't want to just be another person that's like, I get that I'm negative in these videos in some ways, but my message is supposed to be, guys, it's not actually that bad. Yes, there are concerns with Windows 11. Yes, there's concerns with what corporations are doing right now. Yes, those things are true. It will not always be this way. We can do, we as people have the power to make changes, but the problem is people are not doing it correctly. Well, we're just not going to use Windows 11. Okay, fine, don't use Windows 11. I'm not saying you should. But you know what? You shouldn't just stay on Windows 10 or act like you have to find roundabout way, whatever. Switch to fucking Linux, or just stop using Microsoft products completely. That's my answer to that. That's what I did. I have to at work. They still use Windows. I don't get to make those decisions at work. I just have to support the goddamn environment. But otherwise, at home here, hell yeah, I ditched everything Microsoft. The only thing I have is Microsoft account now, but that's for Minecraft. So I still play Minecraft. So I have to have, a Microsoft account for that, unfortunately. Not my fucking choice, but that's required now. Fucking sucks. Anyways, I'll leave the video off of that. Guys, Windows 11's not that bad. It's not nearly as bad as like switching from 7 to 8 was. It's not even, it doesn't even begin to be that bad. All right. So this hype that Windows 10 is like this is the end of the fucking world, you know, no. It'll be fine. And eventually here, and I'm telling you, and a lot of us already know this, give this shit 10 years. And in 10 years, if even that, but we haven't seen another version of Windows come around the corner yet, so that's why I'm saying 10 years. There's going to be the next version, though. And everybody, we don't want to give away from 11. We don't want to lose 11. Oh my fucking God. Here we go again. It's going to happen. We already all know that. And it's not even like 11's that much better than 10. Or 10's that much better than 11. It's not like we're losing Windows 7 here. We're losing Windows fucking 10. Everybody complained about having to move to a 10 from 7. And I was one of those people. I didn't like having to lose 7. I got it. I understood why. But I was like, all right, fine, whatever. But I also knew that, well, yeah, 7 is old. And I didn't like that I had to move to 10. I didn't like that I was losing 7 because the next generation was not good, right? Now, I get that it's your argument with 11. But it's not. I'm sorry, but it's not the same. It actually isn't the same thing because unlike 7, 10 was not as good. Sorry. You can't sit here and tell me that Windows 10 is as good as Windows 7. So, with that, I hope you guys have a good night. I hope you all have a good day tomorrow. And the 6 viewers that watched my last 2 videos, y'all are fucking awesome. Tell your friends about this shit. Tell your friends, hey, there's this new guy on YouTube. He's like an idiot, and I love him. He sits in his car and like yells at a fucking phone. Let's get the word out, guys. Yeah, hope to see you all in the next video.